This video will explain the temporary combat system for the Seattle boss battle. This should feel familiar with both the GURPS system that we have been using so far, as well as the D&D system we've used in the past, as it tries to blend the two together, leaning into the D&D side just a little bit more. Timestamps and chapters will be available in the description if I can figure out how to use them to help with navigating this video. Also in the description of this video will be the script of this video in case you wish to read that instead. With that out of the way, let's begin. Section 1. Initiative, Turns, and Actions. To start, we will discuss how initiative, turns, and actions will flow in this modified system, which is very similar to our current system. Initiative will be taken identically to GURPS, determined by basic speed first, and in case of a tie, dex, or if a further tie, a roll. Turns will be taken mostly one at a time, but in a bit more of a freeform style as opposed to D&D and GURPS. This is done by separating the combatants into three primary groups: players and companions, NPCs, and lastly, the boss. These specific groups only apply to this encounter, but in the eventual modified combat system, this group mechanic will remain in most instances. What this mechanic does for the encounter, however, is allow for more order in turns, as well as more flexibility in actions. The encounter will follow a strict group order of players and companions, the boss, and NPCs, with initiative being an internal factor in each group, which helps prevent jumping between players and NPC enemies back and forth throughout a round. As all players are grouped together in turns, this will also allow for turns to opt to change around in what order their actions occur. As an example, player A is first and plans to use an electric attack. Player B follows player A, but player A has the ability to soak the enemy, thus making the electric attack deal even more damage. Normally, in order for this to happen, player A would need to wait till the next round to get the damage bonus from the water, or player A would need to ready their action to trigger on the water spell being cast. Both these scenarios bring with them downsides. In the first scenario, player A loses out on bonus damage in the first round. In the second scenario, due to the nature of readied actions being similar to if statements without a failsafe, if the water spell fails, the attack does not trigger. Similarly, if the electric attack was a spell that consumed mana or a spell slot, depending on the system of course, the mana or spell slot would still be lost even if the attack did not go off. In this new group system, player A and B can instead opt to decide in which order their actions would occur, allowing player B to attempt the spell first, then allowing player A to attack afterwards, or change their action if the water spell fails and player A deems a change necessary. An important note as well, this changes the order of their actions but not their turns per se. This means that player A can choose to still use the rest of their turn options, movement, bonus actions, etc., before player A takes the aforementioned action. And on the subject of actions, we will be adopting the D&D system of action, bonus action, other actions. This won't seem too major, but it will have a few differences from base game GURPS that we've ignored up until now anyways. For example, in base GURPS, moving and attacking on the same turn is supposed to give a penalty to the attack. We have ignored this and will continue to ignore it going forward. For this upcoming encounter, questions on actions can be asked either at the time or in advance. However, when the full combat rework is written, it will include a chart detailing where each action is properly classified as. Section 2. Attacks, targeted attacks, health, and damage. For this specific encounter, we will be multiplying all hit points by 10. This is mostly to avoid decimals, making the health values and damage values more readable. This also applies to damage, so it's truly just a visual change. The attacks themselves will roll to hit the same as in base GURPS. Damage will be rolled based on weapon or spell, each explained at the time or asked beforehand. One important thing to note with damage, however, is that it will be decreased based on the armor value of either the player or the enemy, depending on who was hit. This change, in the case of an affected enemy, will not be mentioned to the player, so you will have to gauge the effectivity of different attacks based on how the enemy acts after the fact. Lastly, if you choose to target a specific part of an enemy, this will apply a higher chance to miss, but special damage on a hit to the chosen body part. In the final modified system, damage and health will revert back down unless the players prefer the times 10 multiplier. Section 3. Defensive maneuvers, working with companions, fatigue points, and posture. The simplest of these topics to discuss will be defensive maneuvers and posture. Similar to base scripts, you can choose a defensive maneuver such as dodge in reaction to an attack. Dodging is a special action and does not take up your attack of opportunity. Dodges are limited to 3 per round, which should be plenty if enemies are dealt with properly. Posture refers to whether you are standing, sitting, or prone. Changing posture will take a move action, thus preventing further movement. Changing posture can also affect aim, specifically on targeted attacks, and can be used in conjunction with an attack. For example, if a player wanted to slash at an opponent's knees to try and prevent them from fleeing, they could choose to kneel as they attacked, putting them at a better angle to hit the knees. The player could not, however, do this if they first needed to approach the enemy from a distance due to their move being taken. Fatigue points will only be usable in this encounter once per round for a feverish defense, a GURPS action which allows you to spend 1 fatigue point and get a +2 bonus on this instance of your active defense, which does not include retreats. Lastly, we have working with companions. Your companions will be controlled by me, however you can attempt to influence their actions. This will be decided completely based on RP, with no skills to impact. For the start, I recommend letting your companions act on their own to see what skills they might have up their sleeves. Other than that, you can speak to them freely and mix in their actions with the players as they belong to the same group. Section 4. Encounter Flow. This section is short and brief. The encounter will be a multi-phase raid-style boss fight. The boss will introduce new mechanics in each phase, each with contextual clues to determine how they function. Every 3 rounds, you may attempt a skill check to gain extra knowledge of the mechanics, however they are intended to be deciphered by the player, and the specifics of each mechanic will never be given outright or confirmed. The battle will also include adds throughout which can be dealt with as the player wishes, however some may play into mechanics. That is the basics of the modified combat system for this encounter. The final modified system will bear many similarities to the system but will be more greatly expanded upon. However, that will take a while to finish. Good luck. You'll need it.